All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June episode of Scripting the Book, our movie watching, series watching, book reading book club that I do with my good friend Natalie and Ben, my book club buddies. I am going to let them introduce themselves really quick. We'll start with Ben and we'll swing it on around. So go ahead, take it away, Ben. Let the people know who you are.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Ben Pick. You can also find me on YouTube as Running to Write. And yes, I did write a urban fantasy book called Falling Through, which is now up to the third novel, and I'm currently working on the fourth. You can also find me every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where I do productivity sprints on YouTube as Running to Write.
Yes.
I'm prepared for my friends, but not for me. So I'm Natalie Locke.
I know. I'm like, do I run back and look for it?
Luckily, it's right next to me. It's just I have to go off screen. So
you're so
wrote
good.
2 writing prompt books, 1,000 words to get started, and 1,000 words to ignite romance. All about writing prompts and challenges. No matter what level of writing skills you have, it will definitely make you better because practice makes perfect. Actually. And in the case of writing, it's not perfect practice. You got to get the bad stuff out of the way to know what it feels like so you can avoid it. And I did that with my co-author, Chandra Author, who will actually be on Nina's channel tonight for the Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. Tomorrow
class.
night.
Tomorrow night. Gosh, my
I know. Same.
So, but yeah, you can find Chandra and I monthly alternating between our channels with Flash Fiction. And we will actually both be presenting during AWC next weekend.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Very excited about that. I will be watching all of the things. I am Nia the Vixen of Fiction all over the internet. I also write under NV James. Right now, I'm writing short romantic contemporary fantasy. It's a lot of fun while I work on a couple of very large epic fantasy and a big sci-fi that are ever growing. So I'm glad that I can at least put out the little short stories in the meantime to just get that energy out. Do you guys ever get that need, like, I just want to write something right now, but I'm working on this giant thing?
Yeah, that's why I like Flash Fiction.
Yes. So it's been a lot of fun. So I do write some short stories under NV James. You can find those over on Kindle. And I host streams on usually Tuesday nights. I will be back in July with productivity sprints on Tuesday nights. I am currently doing a study session with friends. You can come hang out with us. We are doing Brandon Sanderson's BYU course. It's literature writing. Oh my gosh, why did the name of the course has just slipped out of my brain, but you guys know the one. You know the one. Everybody has seen the Brandon Sanderson courses. So we're doing his 2025 lectures. It's a lot of fun. So you can come hang out with us if you would like to do that every other Monday night. And so we'll be doing that tomorrow night if you're watching live or watching today.
Not to digress, but I saw the original classes. Have they changed?
They have changed, and some things have not changed that probably should change. So it's it is actually part of our discussion. That the things how it's evolved, and the things that have stayed the same.
I'll start watching the back videos, but I was just wondering because I knew Brandon Sanderson was re-recording because I'm subscribed to his newsletter, but at the same time I was like, it's literature. Like, other than the evolution of language naturally, how much has changed?
Yeah, and it's more, it's the writing actually. I don't know why the name of the actual lecture has slipped out of my head. I'll probably look it up. But it's actually a writing course, and it's actually pretty good. So there's only one that we were like, we could pass on this, but it's because we've been in the writing sphere for a while now. So if you're new, it was actually the last one we did. So if you're new, that one is like, yes, it's very informative. But for those of us who have already know about these different methods of
It's a
writing,
snooze class. Got it.
yes,
On that one alone.
yeah, yeah, because like we've heard of the snowball method and all of these other methods. So for us, it was just like, yeah, this one we could pass on. But I think the second one was my favorite one so far. So yeah, we're going through them. We'll get through all of them. They're all posted, so folks can go check those out. And it's really great.
Writing, we're covering The Witcher, which started as
a game. I think was the game first,
then books.
No, it was a book. Then
the books came first. The books came out in 1994.
Okay, so the books came first, then the game.
Then the movie, the series. And there was some. I feel like I heard that there were some other like smaller projects done on it. So it definitely has a fan base. I had heard of it. I had not ever played the game, never read the books, but it's one of those things that if you are in the realm of fantasy reading, or you have kids or yourself are a gamer, even if you haven't played the game yourself, it's one of those that you've heard of. So it is something that I had definitely heard of by the time we got to where it became a Netflix thing. So we're gonna do our on The Witcher, the book. I read The Last Wish. So let's just start with The Last Wish, and then I'll ask you guys what you guys thought of the Sword of Destiny. So anybody a dislike on The Last Wish? A neutral on The Last Wish? A like on The Last Wish? Okay, so nobody loved it. Was that a high like, low like?
It was enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like that's about where I am with it. It was enjoyable I feel like for anything to get into the love it. I think we've talked about this before. Is it something I would read again? And I feel like the only way I would read this one again, would be if I decided that I really wanted to get into the Witcher fandom, because there is a lot to dissect about it. But as a surface read, I thought it was enjoyable, and it
wasn't wasted time at all.
Yeah,
it's just it's that do I want to experience it again type thing. And I it's not that I don't, but at the same time I would want to I don't know, there's other things on my list that I want to experience that I haven't yet.
Yeah, I felt that each of those, because it's broken down into like short stories, and I thought each one were very entertaining. And as we get into talking about the TV show, we'll talk about how that all made sense. So for me, it was an enjoyable read. That this was translated, I thought this was translated. That's really good. So I don't know who did the translations, but I couldn't tell. It was really, in my opinion, written really well. Like I couldn't tell that there wasn't anything where I'm because I did partial audio, partial reading via my iPad, and there weren't any things where I was like that. You know how sometimes when you're reading a translation, you're like, is that what they really mean? Because it's worded a little strangely, or it's a turn of phrase that we don't necessarily use in English. I mean, I didn't get any parts of it where I was like, I don't really know what they're talking about. It was well translated, read really well. Wasn't a hard read either, for it being, such a kind of high fantasy,
very rich, like world building and structure and such.
Yeah. So anybody else, what were your thoughts on The Last Wish? And then I'll ask you guys about the Sword of Destiny.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly enjoyable. I thought it was well told. And I kept having to relook it up in Wikipedia to see when it was published. Because I know it's in a short story anthology format, but it is designed to be on television. Like every single one of those is just episode. Every single chapter was an episode of a TV show. And like, yes, there were some high budget scenes, but for the most part, it was pretty like low key, people talking, people fighting, whatever, doing this and the other thing. But even for like 90s CGI, it felt very much like it could be easily turned into a TV show.
Yeah, like literally the first story, which I think is the first short stories section, is like called The Witcher, and it's like literally the Witcher walks into a bar, gets into a fight with a bunch of guys. It's like so readable. I'm like, and having watched the series first, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. It all made perfect sense.
But that's like your perfect episode 1 pilot hook. Like
really
everything
is.
about it
really is.
The book screamed to me like this needs to be made into a TV show.
Yep. Totally agree. So yeah, I really liked it. I was like, this is, I can see it now. And I'm like, I'm almost kind of mad at myself that I hadn't read it before, because I was like, this was, and I don't want to say it was an easy read, but it was such an enjoyable read that I felt myself, when I would have to put it down to either go to sleep or do my next thing, I was actually looking forward to the next section. You know, like what stories am I going to get this time? You know, so it was very enjoyable. Again, not something that I would probably go back and read unless I decided, because there is a lot to dive into with this. If I decided that, okay, I really want to get into The Witcher, I would probably go back and start piecing together timelines and all of that stuff, because it's ripe for that as well, I feel. So I feel like if you are in the Witcher fandom, you probably are like love this stuff and can like go back.
There is critique. So the people who are fans of the game don't like the show. And I will say, after the first season, there is liberties taken, and that the fandom,
even in the first season.
Yeah, even in the first season too, but a little bit more after that. Not to jump ahead, but that's about as much we'll talk about future stuff.
Yeah. All right. So, does anybody have any other thoughts on The Last Wish? And then we'll move on to asking you guys about the Sword of Destiny. We good? All right. What do you guys think about the Sword of Destiny? I'm going to put it, I know it just says The Witcher, but anybody, did you guys dislike the Sword of Destiny? Neutral?
I'll just jump in and say it's kind of in the same realm.
Yeah.
Same? All right.
If you like the first book, you like the second.
Not a love, but just not a love, but very enjoyable.
Definitely not time wasted. Like I'm glad I picked it up and everything, and I do like the episodic nature of it. And it did get a little confusing jumping around in time, but that's the way the show is too.
Yes, we'll get into that.
Jumping around in time. So it just, as long as you were aware of that going in. I know when I read these the first time, I wasn't expecting that. But I also watched the show first and then I read them. So
yes. Honestly, the only thing that's confusing
really quick, if you are a young person watching this, Kiko is letting you know the books and the games are not for kids.
And the show too.
I would say the show isn't.
100%. The show too.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I watched the show first and then I read the books, and the timeline thing it is a little bit jumpy, but like the show, after watching the show, I understood the whole thing about like the chance. The chance was, everything else makes sense. You know, we have specific monsters that I wouldn't necessarily understand what they look like until they get explained later, and there's certain characters and certain
my imagination
political alignments across the different continents, which I couldn't really follow very well, but I would, you know, get caught up in later chapters and whatever. But the thing of chance, like I would have been completely lost with that if it weren't for the show.
Interesting.
Because they did not do a good job of explaining that in the book.
Oh, okay.
It's basically just like a lot of times somebody will come through, and for some reason I could never understand why they would always say like, oh, you know, when I go back, you can get the thing that I wasn't expecting to be at home, you can have. And the guy's like, well, I know my wife isn't pregnant or whatever, and so this, that, and the other, so no matter what, I'm not giving away a child. But like they'll come home and it turns out that, you know, the wife will in fact have adopted a kid or something along those lines, and so you have a lot of kids being given away in these stories based around folklores.
That is interesting. So is it one of those things where the further you get into the series, does it get a little bit more, I don't want to say convoluted, but where you feel like there's the world starts to expand in a way that you don't know all of the pieces. Where when you first start reading the first book, the last wish, where you're just kind of like popping along the stories, but as the stories grow into the series, you start it like the world is coming together, but you're maybe getting a little lost in the sauce a little bit.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, it is still episodic in these different chapters, and we are still just jumping around in timelines and locations and whatnot. I do think that it does a great job of expanding the world. So by the end of the second book, you know, like war is coming, and it is. There's a lot of preludes to it. There's a lot of things that they're setting up across the different the nations within this fantasy world. And so you can sort of feel that like you're heading towards something momentous, even though individually, like nothing major really happens across the different stories. Or if it does, it very quickly resets to you know, the baseline at the start of the next chapter. So you're kind of getting this pattern of like, hey, something we might move along, like this larger political issue. You know, this one, yeah. Again, this is all fantasy world. There's a lot of real world things going on, but in this fantasy world, like, oh, we can see the daughter of the king is going this way, and so then she needs to, you know, this will set up some other country to want to invade because they feel like they were wronged when they didn't end up marrying the king's daughter or whatever like that, the princess. So you can sort of see where some plot threads will be carried in future books.
I like to think of it with the books. It's like putting a puzzle together and everything. They're all scrambled together, and though in this case we don't have it, we are getting the picture as we're putting the puzzle together. So when you get a new piece, a new chapter, you might struggle a little bit of where to place it, but you'll find its home pretty quickly, and see the picture grow.
Gotcha. All right, you guys have any other thoughts on the books? Because we try to keep it not super spoilery, so that you guys, when you want to dive into reading these books, you can go ahead and read it. Towards the end of we're on for an hour today, so towards the end we will get quite spoilery. So for now, we're trying to keep if you see us being vague, we're trying to not spoil it for you. So any other thoughts on the books?
Yeah, I got one last one. So the books, these individual anthology stories, are very much aligned with the original intents behind the Brothers Grimm. So if you know like any of your classic Disney fairy tales, if you know the stuff behind them, what they're based on, which are a lot more violent, this will feel right at home to you.
Nice. All right. We are going to move on to the Netflix series. We're going to keep it in the beginning. We'll keep it a little bit non-spoilery. We'll pop up these banners so everybody knows where we're at. But thoughts on The Witcher? We're going to do season 1. We're heading into season 4 now, so there's no way we could do all of them. But so we're going to talk about season 1. Dislike, neutral, like.
So it's neutral.
Loved it. Okay, so you're in between. Are you between a like and a love, or a neutral and a like? Ben?
Neutral and like.
Neutral. And I'm more like love.
Yeah, and I'm solidly, I liked it. That being said, solidly liking it. My thoughts on The Witcher is the first time watching it through in the beginning and not having read the books and understanding, just jumping in because, ooh, Witcher sounds cool. And also Henry Cavill, I was confused. I'm one of those ones. If there were people who were like, I'm confused, I don't understand, where are we? That was me until I think it really sunk in. By the second episode, I'm like, okay, everyone's on a different timeline. So we're going to keep it not spoilery just for a few minutes, and then we'll hop into, we'll get all into it. But watching it the first time through, it was, the timeline of it all was a little bit confusing because I hopped in thinking that everything was happening at the same time. I don't know if I'm going to, possible spoiler, going to put my hand up. This might be a spoiler, but two of the main characters that we're following along, Yennefer and the Witcher and Simpson
Geralt.
Geralt, they don't age. So when you're watching it, it was a little bit confusing. I could kind of tell Yennefer because she's a child in her hometown, and then she's at a school. So I could kind of tell that I wasn't really able to tell how much of a time jump we were doing with her. So that was what made it confusing with the timeline. Okay, spoilery-ish portion of that over. Just to say that the timeline was a little bit confusing because there's characters that age differently. So first time out watching, not knowing a lot about The Witcher, only having heard about it vaguely, that it was a game. I found that a little confusing. However, even though that was confusing, it was still very entertaining. So it never got confusing to the point where I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm done. That never happened. Anybody else trying to do your non-spoilery part?
When I didn't understand what was going on, I kind of just accepted it and was like, move on. Like, by not understanding, I would just, I don't know, it's like compartmentalizing it a little bit. I'm not one to get held up because of one certain thing. Now, when the movie's done and that plot is still open, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, I had questions from episode 1 and you never clued me in at all. This is still confusing. Yeah, I didn't feel like they did that. I feel like fairly quickly you could pick up on that, the timeline aspect of it, and then other things that might be confusing were, I don't know if they were on purpose, but they started to fill themselves in as you continued to watch the series. So I also was never to a point like, like what is really happening here? Like, you just kind of like, I'm going with this. All right, where are you taking me? What are you trying to tell me? It was thoroughly entertaining. How about you, Ben? And then we'll get into it.
Yeah, I think that, like I said before with the book, where it is basically episodic, they did a really good job of kind of following the blueprint that they were giving, and they did it well. So for at least the first season, what was this? Amazon?
Netflix.
HBO.
Netflix. Oh, was it HBO? I thought it was Netflix.
Sorry, Netflix. You're right. Netflix. So this was Netflix's answer to try and make their own Game of Thrones. And so they threw money at this project, and it shows. Like, it is well done, well constructed, well acted. You said his name already. Who played Geralt?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, thank you. Henry Cavill is a fan of the series, and that absolutely shows. That comes through to the point where he would like make comments to the writers, to the director, to whomever of like, Geralt wouldn't do this, so I'm not going, like, I'm going to get into this role. I know this role. I know the stories. I know the game. Like, I know more than you about this, so I'm going to act it as I see fit. And yeah, thank you, Keiko, for correcting me. Yeah, this is Netflix. I'm very sorry. Not HBO, not Amazon.
In your defense, there's like so many streaming services.
Yes.
And all of them are trying to go for that Game of Thrones money. So this, like I said, well acted. I enjoyed Henry Cavill just hamming up in every scene because he knows what fans of this. I'm not a fan. I never played the game. The third one apparently is the best video game of all time. I have not played that, although that does seem like something that I should try eventually.
I know. I need to add this to my game list.
Right. But he knows what fans of the series want, and he was able to deliver that well. So this was an enjoyable watch.
Nice. All right. Speaking of, let's go ahead and get into our full spoilers. What are our thoughts on the casting, acting? Obviously, I think everybody, are we all in agreement that Henry Cavill did an excellent job? I loved that he knew the character, because even when people would post like game clips and stuff like that, I'm like, that is him. That is him. It was perfect.
No, I do say I prefer clean shaven over the scruff.
You prefer
But he always has, like, the game always has the scruff.
Yeah, I like the scruff. But yeah, the hair, everything, he definitely looked the part. I had heard that they changed, some of the characters were changed. Things like that don't bother me if it's fantasy, particularly. Those things don't bother me. I'm sure it might bother some people because I think especially when you have a picture in your mind of what someone should look like, and then they're not, that can be upsetting to some people. I'm not one of those people. But so that being said, I thought that I thought all of the actors were doing a really great job. Again, I don't know what the acting was like in the game, so I didn't come in with preconceived notions of what they should be. It's just that with Geralt's portrayal, I thought that's what it is. Yennefer, I thought that's what it is. And so on and so forth down the line. And I was enjoying everybody. So I thought that I'm trying to think if there's any acting that stood out to me as I don't like it. But and I did a rewatch of, I think I rewatched 5 of the episodes, and I still liked it. She said Kiko said even though he looks good with one fact. Geralt hates having a beard. Very cool. So what are you guys' thoughts on we'll start with the acting, other than Henry?
There was no one that seemed off to me, but of course I watched the show first before reading. But I will say I kind of like that order because part of the reason why I don't like high fantasy is that maybe this is an assumption, is that it relies on my imagination too much. Like that I have to picture these things and the complexity of it, especially with magic systems and stuff like that. So being able to have faces for characters already, it's helpful, and makes it a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a hard time though if it's something I've read before. If I've read it already and then I see it, if I really like the acting, in my mind, they just changed to the actors. Yeah, I can say this as someone who's read a lot of like Jane Austen. I read them in high school, but after seeing the movies, whoever was my favorite actress or actor playing that's who they are in my head when I see them. And sometimes, like with Pride and Prejudice, the movies kind of like mix. It's like it's Rosamund Pike for one thing, but then I go back to the OG Jennifer Eel for another character, and I'm like, so it mixes up in my head, but I know exactly who they are. So whoever my favorite is, once I've seen something portrayed, that's who they are. So I can't not see Henry Cavill. So I don't know what it's going to be like when I get into season 4 of this one. I'm like, will I even notice that it's not him, or am I just going to see the characters that I want to see? Which is just a mind trick thingy that happens with me.
Sorry, I just did a couple of lookups based on what you said. Because Rosamund Pike is in Wheel of Time, and she's like the major Aes Sedai. So
yes,
interesting that we're crossing streams here with different fantasy series.
I'm a Rosamund Pike fan. Yes. And yes, she is in Wheel of Time. Hopefully not R.I.P. Wheel of Time. I hope that they find a new home for it. Anyway, that's an aside. I know. That's an aside. They've got a great fandom though. So for them, I really hope that they.
Yeah, and I just couldn't get into that Wheel of Time.
Yeah, it gets good in the 3rd season, but third
season was so good. Yeah. I know. Unfortunately,
I have a 3-episode rule. And this one, I could barely get through the first. It's just like, I don't know, maybe I'm in this like instant gratification group and stuff where I want things to happen quickly. And
that's an entirely different topic, but they took liberties with that story, and
a lot of liberties.
They swung for the fences and missed every time.
No offense to the actors. The actors did fantastic. They were probably the most enjoyable part. The acting was definitely the most enjoyable part.
Yeah,
agreed. So back to The Witcher though. The Witcher, we maybe people are getting typecasted because they're in this fantasy, and we just can't see them as like modern day at all. We have to see them in another world.
Yeah, I do see Henry Cavill as like superhero type now. And he's done so many other things. So, but I do picture him in this superhero.
I think he actually played a villain one time. I just can't remember.
He was the villain. He was a villain in one, not Die Hard, but the Tom Cruise movies, Mission Impossible.
Oh, Mission Impossible. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. So was Philip Seymour Hoffman at one point, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Oh, Henry Cavill and the Tudors. I forgot about that show.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay.
Okay, back to this. So The Witcher, the world building. Like, I have no qualms about the world building. I got no qualms about the casting and everything. Like, it existed and everything. Maybe, and I don't know if it's the child actor or if it's just the direction of the director, but that one was a little harder to suspend disbelief on.
Yeah, I think they aged her up too, right?
Yeah, I think they did.
I feel like they
did. Because in the books, just for one example, when she loses grandparents or anything like that, she's much younger actually in the books. Yeah. Kiko agrees. They did age her up. But the acting there was just, I don't know. It's probably on par with like how they were trying to make in Twilight Kristen Stewart seem like nonchalant, and she just came across as bad acting. And that's the same thing that happened in Dune. In Dune, they were trying to convey they don't get swayed emotionally, which comes across as bad acting. You know, and everything, which is funny because in Star Trek, you have
the Vulcans.
The Vulcans. Yeah, that aren't emotional. Great acting. Just saying, it can be done. I don't know what the missing piece is, but
that's because they go through the John Hurt School of Acting, where like you say so much with just a little eyebrow raise, like the tiniest little facial features give it away, and so instead you have this static mask.
Yes. I also think that the ears and the eye makeup helps. I'm just saying because we see Alien. So we expect Alien. It's just something that I've noticed through sci-fi and fantasy. When you have very stoic characters, if they look like, the more they look like us, the more we think, what are they doing? But the more alien they look, the more acceptable it is. So I don't know if that's a psychological thing. If that has something.
Keep digressing. Either way, the child actor is the only one that I was just like, I had to suspend disbelief on. And again, I don't know if it's her skills or what her direction was.
Yep. Did any of the, there are a lot of creatures in this. The djinn was the biggest mystery for me because all you would ever see is like a little wind or hiss of smoke. But like the strigas and things like that, I'm like, that's a creepy looking thing. So I thought that they did really good with that. There was one scene, I think it was either in episode 1 or 2, where I thought, what's wrong with this CGI? But then then as you're going through the scene, you realize even Geralt is like, you made this place up. So it is meant to look bizarre to us. So what I originally thought was bad CGI ended up being good CGI because it's supposed to look like this guy magically created this place. And so even Geralt's like walks in and like, none of this is real. And I'm like,
to give the audience a hint that this is not real, before we understand that it actually isn't. So kind of like when we get the as readers and watchers, we like to have that I know a secret before the main character does.
Yes. You know. And so when he walks in, you're like, why does that look so weird? And you're like, oh, I caught that. Yeah, that's why it looks weird, because it's not real. So there were a lot of things that they did. I'm keeping this to season 1. There was a lot of things that they did that I thought looked really good. One thing I didn't know, I don't know how I feel about how it looked. I don't remember if it was episode 5 or 6, but they're going across the mountain and they're on that little ledge. And one of the characters falls deliberately. They're like sacrificing themselves to save the others. The way that they fall through the clouds, I don't know if it was meant to be slow motion, but it felt like they were falling slow, but it wasn't slow motion. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when they deliberately slow something and you get that, but it looked like that, but also didn't. Honestly, it just looked like they were falling too slow. And I don't know why that stood out in my mind, but I was like, why does it look like that? And so I just told myself, I think they're trying to make the slow motion, but for some reason it just looks like they're falling slow. And both of the characters that sacrificed themselves, it was the same. But the acting was good. They looked very dramatic, like don't do it.
The film technique when you're I don't say this correctly, but it's the technique when it looks like you're zooming into the character but you're panning out, so the background changes and everything. That's usually done in a moment of like realization for the character or something major's happening, and that I want to say I think they were doing something like that where they were playing with the camera effects. So it made it look like it was slowing down, but at the same time with the background and stuff. I don't know. It's been a while.
It just didn't come off. It was weird. And then they just fell through the clouds. I don't know what that was, but it didn't look like I feel like it should have looked.
And it pulled you out.
Just for a split second, we went right back to Geralt and Yennefer on the cliff, and so it was over. But I was like, that's the only thing where I was like, why did it? And obviously, if I'm bringing it up, it's something that visually I noticed, and I'm a pretty visual person, so things like, unfortunately, the odd little things that shouldn't matter will stick in my head. If I say out loud while I'm watching something, why did that happen? That's it. It's stuck in my head. So I saw myself asking, why does it look like that? So it stuck out. So it's not that every CGI thing was perfect, but other than that, it was honestly pretty well done. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about how, especially in season 1, I don't have a lot of complaints about how that came across.
All right, you've been holding it back, Ben. Come on, lay it on us.
Yeah, I know. Here we go.
I just feel like the story itself is so focused. The books themselves are so focused on Geralt, and the video game is all focused on Geralt. And like, yes, there are people who come in and out of his lives, but I did not care about any of the wizard's backstory, the witch's backstory, like any of that. For everything else, we are on a need to know basis where we learn about something as we need to know it. And then here's this whole episode on this one character. And like, I didn't care.
I know it made it difficult to connect the characters and stuff because you're like, whoa, why is this person? But then it built anticipation because you're like, when are Yennefer and Geralt gonna meet then? Obviously, they got to cross paths at some point.
Yes. And that became my big waiting game. When are they going to meet? What's it going to be like? So that was kind of exciting. Getting all of so there were parts where I really was like, why are we here? Why are we talking about these people? But then it was quite exciting. One of them was when we meet the djinn, and I'm like, this djinn better be important, because at this point you're like, when are they going to meet? Okay, and they're also, what does Ciri have to do with any of this? When are they going to meet as well?
She's the child of destiny.
Yeah, I know. So I'm
child
like, here we are. We're like, what, 4 or 5 episodes in? Nobody's meeting yet. I'm like, okay, come on. So then when we start this next episode, and now I'm like, now we're going to deal with this djinn thing. What is this? And then it was very exciting that Yennefer actually comes into the Geralt's framework now that we met this djinn. But I honestly thought it was just going to be another episode with Geralt, and what is what is his name? The guy who sings. I thought,
Dandelion.
okay, yeah, Dandelion. I'm like, we're getting in. It's gonna be another
Which
event
is
episode. Okay.
weird. So I could have sworn that in the first book they called him Dandarian at one point, and I tried to go back and like see if it was something I misread or whatever, but I couldn't find it out. And then all of a sudden they just started calling him Dandelion.
Dandelion.
So I don't know what's going on there. It might have just been my own.
They definitely had some weird names, and maybe that is the translation issues, where it would have been much more beautiful in another language. But
Oh yeah.
because I know it's interesting. When I was in high school, we had French exchange students, and I found it interesting what they would choose for names versus what America would choose for names. Like they found it weird that we would choose names like for using the months of the year for names and stuff, or seasons like autumn or summer.
Well, that's just life being in a circle.
Yeah.
And thank you for
August and July,
Kiko.
So, but I mean, it could have been one of those things. Are we ready for differences or anything that stands out?
Yeah, let's do our best and worst changes.
I got one that has stuck with me, and it's probably because when it came out. So in the show, the infant side scene, I can't get it out of my mind. It is there forever. And watching it after being a new parent and stuff at the time, it is rough.
Yeah.
It tore me up. And then I found out later it wasn't in the book, and I'm like, why?
Who came up with this idea? Why? I think it has something to do with Yennefer's desire to have
her story arc. Yeah. I mean, and then it is a big part of her and stuff, but at the same time it was like,
but why did you rip our hearts out like this and just devastate us like this?
Yeah, their approach was like in your face versus like the let's do the up version where we just get a musical track and crying. Okay.
Yeah. But it was fascinating the way that they did it. It showed a lot of Yennefer, the whole scene.
Oh yeah, Yennefer was like, she's working, don't like her and stuff, but at the same time, I kind of like her. That she I mean, the full metamorphosis into a beautiful butterfly situation, and it's not even from, beast to beauty or anything like that. It's how her confidence, her presence, like, and everything. So
yeah, but that was rough. That was definitely a rough.
That was like one of my biggest things. The other thing is, and this is where I think the show lacks, is so they had in the books, when it came to magic, there wasn't this like magic cost situation mentioned. And so in the show, all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's yin and yang. You can't do magic without pulling from something else, such in the scene of where the girl like loses her hand. Which was a big backstory for her because we see her again. But at the same time, that sense of magic cost didn't really come up again.
Yeah. Like, so would you say this was something that you enjoyed as a change, or did you think it was not necessary?
I think it wasn't necessary because they didn't keep that change. They didn't keep the cost of magic. Like it was like, it's great for story building in that moment, and also creating a little bit of a tension between the magicians and stuff, but they didn't. But then it became like they didn't use it again, like such as during the scene where Yennefer and Geralt are kissing and magic is caused, and I'm like, where's the cost there?
Mm-hmm.
Type thing. It's just, it didn't. Yeah. The fact that they were selective of when it was useful, that's what the reason why I think it's a worse change. If they kept it and they kept true to the what I like to call the physics of the world, if they
How
created
magic
it
works.
as
Yeah.
a law, then cool. And if they stay true to it, cool. Ben, you better come back. Don't leave me.
I know, right? When we're getting to the best and worst changes, where are you, Ben?
But that's my thing. Is those were. It's still good to me. They're still the great. Oh, thank God you're back. There's still the great like creation of the book in that medium of written word, the games medium in that interactive play, and the television medium as well. They still hold their own. It's just when you have the lore, the ability to have lore from multiple genres and multiple media, it's kind of hard not to start being a little picky. And so that was me.
Yeah. How about you, Ben? You have any favorite or least favorite changes, best and worst?
Yeah, nothing really specific for best and worst. I feel like the show, like I said before, the books themselves had such a tight-knit story that they told. And yes, it was spread out over, each individual story was so complete. And like Natalie said, put little puzzle pieces together, and we would, get the overall story that would progress naturally. The show, it didn't feel like it did that. It felt like...
I would agree. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think.
Sorry, there's a storm here, so I'm having some connectivity issues. I don't have any specific thing that I can say except for the backstory of the wizards, the witches, in later seasons when we get the backstory of the the witchers themselves. So there's the wizards, who are the men, the sorceresses, who are the women, and then the witchers, who are these, as everyone calls them, the mutants, the abominations, whatever. That's
kind of call them
bounty season.
Hunters.
Yeah.
Right. But I just feel like there was so much that they tried to just shove into the story that didn't necessarily belong when you have such a efficient story that's being told in the books. That, I feel like it's somebody who maybe enjoyed the game and just tried to throw in all this extra stuff in there.
I will say the extra stuff is actually backstory in later books.
So I didn't like... Yennefer is an excellent example. So Yennefer, she's just this incredibly powerful woman who we meet in the books, but in the show, giving her backstory, it's like the same thing with Darth Vader, where the more we learn about her, the more we learn about her history, the less special she seems. So I think the worst change is probably
history in future books.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like,
we do?
but it's like told over a beer, not really the show makes it real time, whereas in the books it's more like told over a beer, going, I used to be a hunchback. That's
it. Right. And I think that goes to how my change. And it's like, I'm not sure if it was a best or worst, or if it's just the way that they felt that this was the best way to tell the story. Because so the book I read, if you weren't here at the beginning, I read the first book, and it's told in these episodics where you get a whole story of this little event that happened with Geralt. And it's mostly, these stories are mostly Geralt. So when they're trying to give you, I don't know if this is because this is how it goes in the game, but there's this big bad, the big war, the big battle, the big thing that they're leading up to. So they're taking these little stories, it seems like, but they're mixing the timeline. Everybody's timeline's different. Yennefer is the oldest. Then Geralt, who's like in his 80s or something like that, but he still looks like a person in their 30s or 40s maybe. Yennefer is like 100 and something. And then you have Ciri, who is a teenager, a child. So you're with Yennefer and Geralt, you're going back in time. for their stories, but Siri is in the present time. So the book itself, you're just getting these stories from periodically sporadic around, but they're very episodic, like Ben said before. And the show is just not like that. You're getting like mini episodics with each character, but they're all being told at the same time. So I don't know. I honestly feel, what I feel like is after the big bad, after the big battle or whatever, this could actually come back as just episodes, random episodes of Geralt, and in the random stories that you get in the books, if or at least in the first book, because each one of those events could be like its own little mini story, 1 hour story in and of itself. But I think that they probably felt that this was the best way to tell you who these three main characters are and bring them together for the things that are coming. So it was a choice. Like I said, I never played the game, so I don't know how it goes along in the game. But it made for enjoyable watching for the most part, once you get over the confusion of where everybody's at and understanding that everybody's a different age and we're on a different timeline leading up to where everybody's going to come together. And like I said, once I figured that out by episode 2, I'm like, okay, so then when's everybody going to meet? So that's my thought on how the changes for the show came together. So I wouldn't say that it was bad necessarily. I think that they're trying to make the thing work for the overarching story. And that's what I will say about that. Anybody else? We're gonna get into our, where are they? Final thoughts. How did I lose our, there they are, because they're right in front of our face. So anybody else, your thoughts, final thoughts?
Watch season 1, read all the books.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea. If you're like me, and need like pictures of people when you're reading, watching before reading is actually not a bad idea. And just look at it as like alternate paths almost. Don't try to compare them and be like, this didn't happen. Like it doesn't matter. It's
also
fine.
give up after season 2. Or I guess give up after season 1.
Oh no. I say, if you just want to get to know about the world a little bit and about Geralt, you could go ahead and read the first book. But once you know about the timelines, I say go ahead and watch it. Watch and then read the book. You know what? Either way, I feel like you're going to be good either way. Like I said, I was only confused in episode 1 just because I didn't understand. Going in blind, didn't know anything that we were going to have different timelines. So I literally thought, are we all at the same place? Do they not know what's going on? That there's a battle going on? And I'm like, oh wait, no, they're Yennefer and Geralt are before, and now I'm like, I got you. I see where we're going. So other than that, I don't know if other people thought it was confusing. I heard that other people still found things confusing, but I think I'm more of a, let's just go with it. It's fantasy. There are some things you have to go with it until you figure out what's the what. And that's how fantasy works a lot of times. So I'm pretty cool with that. Anybody else? Final thoughts, and then we're gonna get into what's coming up. Anybody else? Final thoughts? Recommend? Yes? No?
Yeah.
Or Ben said definitely season 1. Ben said for sure.
Yeah, it may not be a repeat for me, but I don't think it's time wasted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed reading the book. Good read. It was enjoyable, entertaining. I only rewatched parts of season 1 to refresh my memory for this, but I definitely enjoyed watching season 1 the first time I watched it, 2-3 years ago. I don't remember. how long it's been. But I think I watched it when it first came out, maybe like a month or two after it first came out. So however long ago that was, I guess it's been years. So enjoyed it, but I never watched it again. I just when season 2 came out, rolled right into season 2. So not necessarily a rewatch, but I'm not deep into the fandom either. But as someone who's not in the fandom, definitely enjoyed it. Wasn't a waste of time for sure. Will I watch season 4? I don't know. I'll probably give it a try just because I'm a little bit of a completionist in that sense that because I have not read all the books. I don't know what's I don't know what's going to happen. So the only way I'm going to find out is if I watch season 4. So I might watch season 4 as well. Still finishing. All right. So let's move on to did everybody give their final thoughts? All right. So what we have coming up. Thank you guys for hanging out with us while we talked about The Witcher. Coming up for July 20th, we're going to be reading Misery. So you guys can come hang out with us. I love Misery. And then in August, we're going to be doing Mary Poppins. So that's what we have coming up. Hopefully you guys will come and join us for that. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and let us know your thoughts on The Witcher. And let us know if you're going to be joining us for any of our future reads. I'm going to let my fabulous co-hosts give their outros, and then we'll say goodbye, starting with Natalie and Kat.
Yeah, this is Lucy, aka Lucifer.
Love it.
Yeah, this is my outro because this is what I'll be doing because I shall not move until she does.
Nice.
Really?
There you go. She's like, we're done. Lucifer is like, we're done. Ben?
Yeah, I'm Ben Pick. You can find me every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Writing to Write on YouTube for productivity sprints. Like I said, the book was enjoyable, so check it out.
All right. And I'm Nia, Vixen of Fiction. You're here on my channel. You can follow me for more. There is Loki. He is my writing partner. He's always chilling. You'll catch him all the time. And Loki has fabulous shorts. Loki's more popular than I am. Most of the people come to this channel for this guy. He's fantastic. I do too. I watch his shorts. So thank you guys for coming. Again, if you're watching on the replay, go ahead and leave your comments. And please, guys, hit the like button. And I never say this, and I've been told you need to say this. Hit the like button. Give us those thumbs up. It pushes us out in the algorithm. Oh my gosh, not me doing the thing. It pushes us out into the algorithm, so more people can join us and read books and watch movies and TV shows. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, Ben and Natalie. It is always a lot of fun hanging out with you guys and talking about these things that we like to read and watch. So we're going to say goodbye with a little Loki. Bye. Thank you, guys.